The purpose of this video is to provide a step-by-step example of interfacing the WAGO 750-841 programmable field bus coupler or the WAGO 750-341 field bus coupler with an AllenBradley 1756 ControlLogix EtherNet Bridge using Ethernet IP protocol. In this example, the 1756 Ethernet Bridge Module functions as an Ethernet IP scanner and uses control and information protocol to manage the inputs and the outputs of the WAGO node. This is also known as implicit messaging. There are two main steps in setting up this configuration. The first step will be to configure WAGO's 750-841 or the WAGO 750-341 for Ethernet IP. The second step will be to configure AllenBradley's 1756 Ethernet Bridge Module as an Ethernet IP scanner. We will start by configuring the WAGO 750-841 for Ethernet IP. In this step, the Ethernet IP settings for the WAGO 750-841 are configured through the built-in web pages on the WAGO 750-841. Using a web browser such as Microsoft Internet Explorer, go ahead and type in the IP address of the WAGO coupler into the address field. Once you've done that and you've selected Go, the page or an HTML page similar to what you have seen here should appear. Okay. From here, we're going to go to the navigation links on the left, and we're going to click on Port. And you should be at this point in time prompted for a username and password. By default, the username is admin. Password will be WAGO. Okay. Once you've entered those, again, these will both be lowercase. And once you've entered those, go ahead and click on OK. Now this is going to bring us to the port configuration or port settings window, if you will. Here you will see a list of supported protocols that the WAGO 750-841 in this case supports. What we need to do is enable this device, or the WAGO 750-841, to function over Ethernet IP. So we find Ethernet IP here. We're going to enable this. At the same time, if Modbus UDP or Modbus TCP is enabled, we need to click on those to unselect them. Okay. The reason for that is that both Modbus TCP and Modbus UDP protocols must be disabled in order to map the input and output process image to an Ethernet IP field bus master. If either of these Modbus protocols is enabled, the inputs and outputs will be mapped for a Modbus TCP or UDP master. And again, we do not want that in this scenario because we do want to use Ethernet IP. Okay. Once you've made these appropriate changes here, go ahead and click on Submit at the bottom of the web-based management page. And again, this will prompt you for a username and password. Again, username is admin, password is WAGO, all lowercase. And once you click on OK, these changes that we made will then be written down to the controller or the coupler. All right. Now, at this point in time, you need to perform a hardware-software reset so the new settings take effect. And again, that hardware-software reset will be done on the WAGO coupler. Now at this point in time, the WAGO 750-841 programmable fieldbus coupler is now ready to use. The next step in configuring this setup will be to configure AllenBradley's 1756 Ethernet Bridge Module as an Ethernet IP scanner. And now going into the AllenBradley configuration, I'm going to make a general assumption that you have an overall understanding of AllenBradley's hardware and software. And again, in my example here, we're going to focus only on the configuration that I have here, and that's the Logix 5555 controller using RSLogix 5000 software. Okay. And in doing so, we will enable the WAGO coupler to be accessible as a remote I/O node via Ethernet IP. So go ahead and start your RSLogix 5000 software. When you do that, you should get the main window here displayed. And now we need to create a new project. So we're going to go to File and then New. And now we can see that the new controller dialog window has appeared. Here we need to adjust a few of the following parameters, or enter a few parameters. First of all will be the type. Well, what type of ControlLogix controller is this going to be for? In our case, it is the Logix 5555 controller. So go ahead and select the revision that you are using on this device. We will give this controller a name, or the project a name, and I'm going to call it WAGO EtherNet IP. And I'll give this a short description so we know what it is. And then go ahead and select your chassis type. Again, we are in this environment here. I'm using a ControlLogix 1756 4-slot ControlLogix chassis. Next will be to select the appropriate slot and then your path in order to save this project to. Once you're happy with the parameters that you've entered here, go ahead and select OK or click OK. All right, and now we can see that we've added the controller to the tree on the left-hand side. But before we can add the WAGO I/O node to the Logix 555 I/O configuration, we first have to add the local 1756 Ethernet Bridge Module. Now to do this, we're going to highlight the I/O configuration, going to right-click, and we're going to add a new module. Now we will find the bridge module under the communications modules. So we're going to select communications, go ahead and expand this. And again, I'm using a 1756 Ethernet bridge. Once I've selected the appropriate module that I'm using, I click OK. You'll be prompted to select a revision, the major revision for that module. I'm using revision 4, so again I'm going to select OK. Now from here, the select module type dialog window is displayed, or the new module window is displayed. And we need to go ahead and again adjust these properties, if you will. I'm simply going to call this local Ethernet bridge. It is in slot 1 in my backplane. And again, we are using revision 4. Now you'll have to enter the IP address of your Ethernet bridge module. Okay, and I will do that now here. Okay. Once you're happy with the parameters you've entered here, go ahead and click on OK. Now if you look in the configuration to the left, you'll see that the 1756 Ethernet bridge module is now part of our hardware configuration. Now we are going to add the WAGO I/O node to this configuration. So what we need to do is highlight the 1756 Ethernet bridge module that was just added. I'm going to right click, And we're going to select New Module. Now again, under the Communications modules, go ahead and peel down through here. And what we're looking for is a Ethernet module, and we're looking for this generic Ethernet module. Once you've found that and you have that highlighted, click OK. Now the new module window and the properties windows for this generic Ethernet module will open up. And again, give this a name so you know what the physical module is on within the network. And simply going to call this WAGO IO. Could enter a description here if you like. I'm not going to in this case. And select the COM format. I'm going to use a signed integer here. And now will be to enter the IP address of the WAGO node. And again, if you forgot this or whatever the case may be, hopefully you've written it down. If not, we could always go back here and look at your web-based management page if you still have that open. So I'm going to go ahead and enter that IO IP address here. And again, this is the IP address of the WAGO IO node. The next thing we need to enter are connection parameters. And again, I'm going to make the assumption that you have a familiarity with AllenBradley's hardware and software environment and their assembly instances. So on the input side here, I'm going to use assembly instance 107. The size of this instance is going to be 5 bytes. And the output assembly instance will be 101. And again, 5 bytes in size. Now for the configuration instance, I'm going to use a 1 here, but this will not be used by the system. Okay. So now we've configured our parameters for the new module, okay, which is for the WAGO IO node. Once you're happy with the parameters you've entered here, go ahead and click on OK. All right. Now if we look over here, we can see that the WAGO Ethernet module has been added to our configuration. At this point in time, now the program can now be downloaded to the Logix controller. So from here, I'm going to go Communications, and then I'm going to go to Download. And again, you may be prompted to download the offline project. That's fine. Go ahead and select Download. Okay. Now, after downloading, if everything was set up correctly, the IO indicator light should be green, as we can see right here on the screen. Additionally, when we place the cursor over the Ethernet module, the WAGO IO that we created here, the module fault box at the bottom of the figure should be blank, and you notice I do not have any fault errors or an exclamation point here in yellow on the module itself. Okay, so we know that we are in a good operational state between the LED indicator here, or the indicator, and the fact that we have no errors on the module. Now we can go ahead and take a look at this. We can view the process data from the WAGO 75841. And the way we're going to do that is go ahead and click on controller tags. Okay. And you can physically see here now the process data from the WAGO 75841 and its associated modules. Okay. Now again, this is a very small process image, only a few modules in my node here. But again, the point being that we can now see this data, and we do have do have access now from the ControlLogix controller. So after completing the steps that we've just gone through, the configuration of the WAGO 75841 PFC and the 1756 Ethernet Bridge Module, they're complete. The WAGO input and output data is now accessible to the ControlLogix 555 controller in my case, as defined in these tables here. So at this time, I would like to thank you all for watching. And again, as with any of our products, if you have any more questions or additional questions about the WAGO products, please don't hesitate to contact the local WAGO sales representative or visit us at www.wago.us. Thank you.